just, if you need seats, and I think there's some seats at the back, so let's just fill the seats, and then certainly when the family arrive, and the front row, just quietly make some space there. Time to Talk by Robert Frost. When a friend calls to me from the road and slows his horse to a meaning walk, I don't stand still and look around on all the hills I haven't hoed and shout from where I am, "What is it?" No, not as there is a time to talk. I thrust my hoe in the mellow ground, blade end up and 5 feet tall, and plod. I go up to the stone wall for a friendly visit. And on behalf of Diane, Audrey, Jack, and all of Tony's extended family, a very warm welcome to you all here today. And we welcome those who are joining us by live stream. We're so lucky to have the modern technology that if people can't join us, they can be with us. And it is fitting that we're here in the Waikino Hall, a place where many family memories have been made, and of course, just down the road from the home that Tony and Diane made for their family. And I'm sure when you're listening to the poem, especially chosen by Diane, you can picture Tony stopping what he was doing and taking time to talk. In the words of his family, Tony had time for everyone. My name is Cheryl Baines, and it is an honour for me to be with you today. As I said earlier, could you please ensure your phones are off? Signing the book. Now I know we had a bit of congestion at the beginning, so if you haven't signed the book, please do so. And there is a beautiful guest book which some of you have signed, and we've moved it into the morning tea rooms. But from chatting when we met, I soon learned of the love, laughter and fun you and Tony shared. From the beginnings of your married life at Di's Diner in Archers Road to the last 23 here in Waikino. Your marriage is a true inspiration to all that knew you, and that's evidence today by how many are here. Always the optimist, I'm told. Tony was your encourager, your rock. You always had a plan, and he would often say to you, "Come on, Maisie, let's make a plan, and if it doesn't work, we'll fix it." So welcome to Audrey and Jack. Your dad was a huge part of your lives. I learned from chatting, and the gap you'll be feeling now will be immense. I learned that he was your biggest supporters, just the best dad ever. Great at giving advice and opinion, even if you didn't want to hear it, and by your own admissions, he was always right. He also loved being father-in-law to you, Brett, and of course Gar to your gorgeous boys, Bryn and Rain, who I noticed had to go to the back because he didn't want to be quiet. How blessed that they had a chance to know their Gar, even if it's just for a short time. Those photos will be memories forever. So today, we stand together and surround you, Diane, Audrey and Jack, and all your extended family, with our love and honour the special man Tony was. We honour Tony's place in his family, caring, loving husband, proud father and grandfather. We honour his honesty, his strength and bravery and empathy. I thought that I would share with you these words attributed to philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, as I believe, after meeting with the family, that these relate to Tony perfectly. The reading is called "That Man is a Success." That man is a success who has lived well, laughed often and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and women and the love of children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who leaves the world better than he found it, who has never lacked appreciation of Earth's beauty or failed to express it, who looked for the best in others and gave the best he had. I learnt that either directly or indirectly, all who crossed paths with Tony held him in respect. And while we acknowledge that death leaves spaces in our lives, broken hearts and sadness that we find so hard to comprehend, it is also said that there is no sorrow without love, and no love without sorrow. A simple explanation of what you're all feeling today as you honour Tony, but such a true message that we should remember. So on a day such as this, we stop for a while and take time out to be together, remembering the love we feel for Tony and his family. We remember the small boy growing up to parents Jeff and Audrey. We remember the mischief of his teenage years. We remember his love of dogs. We remember a man who, if he was going to do anything, he'd do it well. In fact, I think his words were, if we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's go the whole hog. We remember his love of music. Family tell me that the radio was always on in their home, and I was very impressed with their knowledge of music and who sang what. So obviously a tribute to their dad. We remember a loyal friend who always took the time for others. But mostly we remember the full and varied life of the selfless, positive, strong, loyal, brave and positive man Tony was. Those words were words that the family shared with me when describing Tony. But of course, there's so much more to Tony's life, and the family are going to share with us their words, their memories, and their stories. So we're going to begin with Jeff.
I'd like to have been able to memorise this, but under the circumstances it's pretty hard. Thank you for being here to share in the celebration of Tony's life. We know some of you have come a very long way. Over the years, this hall has seen many happy gatherings and family occasions celebrated. A 21st, a wedding, and sadly now another funeral. So it's fitting to have this celebration of his life here too. On Friday morning, when I returned a couple of missed calls from Diane, I knew in my bones it would be bad news. May has been a big month in the Dawson family. Dad used to call it the merry month of May. Dad was born in May. He and Mum got married in May. Tony was born in May. Through Tony, I met my first wife, Sue, in May. We got married in May. Dad's funeral was in May. Son, Robbie, that's Sue and my son, Robbie was born in May. And now we farewell Tony in May. And Di was telling me this morning that each year when May rolled round, Tony tended to get the black dog because he knew that May brought something to the family, and he was always a bit concerned as to what it would do with his health, and quite often that's when he had a downturn. Maybe there are more events, but I can't wait personally for May to be over and done with, and maybe give next year a miss as well. Tony, TD to many, wouldn't want any solemn bullshit or hypocrisy. He genuinely wanted people to celebrate by remembering the good times and the shared experiences with you that made his life so richly lived, and him so loved by his family and friends. As his only brother and last man standing, I'll do my best to share some history of our growing up together and timeline of his life experiences. We were army brats. We grew up in an army family. Granddad was a professional soldier, as was our dad, Jeff Senior. Dad was an officer of Royal Military College, Duntroon, pre-war. I was born in Napier in 1949, while Dad was stationed there. Tony was born in 1952, while Dad was stationed there at Central Military District Headquarters in Wellington. He was adjutant there. In 1954 or 55, I can't be sure because it's going back a while, Dad was posted to Waikino as a major commanding the Armoured Corps. That had been a specialty in the war. We lived in an army house, and for boys our age, it was a great environment to grow up in. We played in the tussock fields, fished for freshwater crays in the cold streams, and in the snow in winter, we loved making snowmen and throwing snowballs. We sometimes watched tank live firing exercises, and it's quite amazing. You can actually see the glowing shell go through the air. We got to ride in army jeeps and other vehicles. We even had a pet goat, pet kid goat. The army guys had shot it while out hunting and didn't realise, well, they'd shot its mother and didn't realise that she'd had a baby. So we ended up with the kid goat. He used to give Mum conniptions because it would jump up onto the mantelpiece and walk around her china. Being in an army family, we both learned about honour, duty, and feeding the animals and troops before yourself. Dad retired from the army in '57 from memory, and in the partnership he became proprietor of the Oasis Hotel in Waikino. Most, if not all of you, will have probably passed there on your travels south. Tony and I used to tie up our pack leather all rusty to pull the breakfast tea cart that was wheeled down the corridor each morning, so guests could have a cup of tea and biscuit on waking. They were different times. We both got into some trouble. We accidentally set fire to the brush fence out the back of the hotel while baking potatoes on sticks. I ran away and hid. I knew I'd be in trouble because I was the older. Tony being the younger. I eventually got found by PC Strawbridge hiding in an abandoned car in a paddock. The first case I can remember, and there were plenty subsequent, where Tony got away with things because his elder brother I got blamed. Sometime around then, excuse me, Tony caught TB. And this was in the 50s when it was rife, it was around, and there were no vaccines at that stage. It was the first of several times he spent, and I can't remember which was which because I'll come to another one in a moment. He had two major spells in hospital of 3 months and 9 months. But he spent months in Tai Hape Hospital. One lung was irreversibly damaged, so he lived the rest of his life basically with only one lung working. And while he recovered, it did affect him in later life. We used to travel nearly every night from Waikino to Tai Hape and Dad's Ford V8, and the roads those days are not as they are now. They were windy and it was a fair old trip. After he got out of hospital, all I know is, as I was only 8 or 9 myself, we had to move to a better climate to help Tony's health improve. We went to stay with a family friend in Rotorua. This must have been around 1958 or thereabouts. Hot water in the house was from a geothermal bore. One night while Mum was running the bath, and she must have walked out for a minute, Tony and I were playing ghosts with pillow slips over our head. We ended up in the bathroom, and somehow Tony went head first into the scalding water. I swear I never pushed him. Mum raced in to lift him out. His skin was peeling off. It was awful. For years, and I wrote here, and maybe still has, but Audrey assured me this morning, he's got hand scars on the side of his chest like that when Mum lifted him up by his ribs to pull him out of the bath. Rushed to hospital. Within minutes he was on the operating table. He nearly died. He was bandaged head to toe and required weekly visits to theatre to have his dressings changed under general anaesthetic. He was in hospital for months again. Like I say, I'm not sure it's real. But certainly before he turned 7 or 8, he had already spent basically a year of his life in hospitals. And that wasn't the only time. So after his release from hospital, we moved to Auckland so Mum could have some family support because both of his sisters and her brother lived there. First we lived at the Otahu Caravan Park. Then Mum, Dad and Tony went to stay with one auntie while I got sent to another. It was 1959 by now. In 1960, just after the Harbour Bridge opened, we moved to a rented house in Beachhaven on the North Shore and started the road. TV just wasn't around in those days, and not for a fair while after. Teenage years. Around 1961, Mum and Dad built a house in Coronation Road, Glenfield, number 47. It was one of the first in what was then a gravel road, and didn't even join up with the road at the bottom there that does now. Between Beachhaven and Glenfield and the schools he went to is where Tony met some of the friends that were to become lifelong mates. We had some fun times growing up through our teenage years there. It wasn't so much fun at the time when he threw a tomahawk at me inside the house that missed my head by inches and sucked into the bedroom door, but I got over it. Coronation Road was where we both got our first cars. In Tony's case, it was a Mark 1 Ford Zephyr that he painted canary yellow with a broad black. He was a boy from Morrinsville. He stayed with us for a while. He delighted in seeing how many sparks he could cause to fly by driving around the corner of Glenfield Road and running the left side of the car along the concrete walk opposite Roberts Road. Those of you who live on the shore probably know what I mean. We used John's car because, of course, Tony didn't want to scratch his. Other accomplices in those years, Johnny Evans, who was a good mate of both of us, and Russell Holmes, who lived further down the road. But before the car, I think his first vehicle was his beloved BSA Super Rocket motorbike. That was a 650cc motorbike. I think he got that at 17. He wanted that so he could ride with his mates, Johnny and Russell. Now I know that he canned me off the back of his bike in Coronation Road, and I'm told that when he first drove around to John Evans, he ran the motorbike into the hedge because he couldn't control it. I think he got the hang of it in the end. Tony and I worked together at a few places over the years, which is probably unusual for brothers. When I walked away from uni because I'd been pushed into a degree course I didn't want to follow, I joined him as a brickies labourer while I got my head together. From there we both started work for Downers as construction labourers when the Kapuni gas pipeline was being constructed. We then ended up working for McConnell Dowell and a pipeline crew in North Waikino, South Auckland. I went on to become an industrial radiographer X-raying welded pipe joints in the Waikato, then worked offshore in Bass Strait, Australia in 1969. And while I was away doing that, Tony got transferred to the Taranaki, I think it was Eltham, as a leading hand running up a crew working on pipeline around there. Tony always picked up things very quickly and was much respected by his workmates. We next worked together again in the 1970s at Greer's Industries, which is an industrial clothing manufacturer. That was after the pipeline work ran out. Tony was a skilled cutter by trade. He'd learned the trade by that stage. We worked together for the last time in the 90s when he came to join me at Novazone building ozone generating equipment. He was a godsend to me, and I'm forever grateful for what he did to help me. But while we were brothers, we were a bit chalk and cheese. I'm an introvert and probably a nerd. He was an extrovert. He was a man's man and made lots of friends easily. I admired and envied him for that, because it didn't come easy and naturally to me. Mum always swore that Tony became lucky after his bad experiences, and that if he fell down a sewer, he'd come up clutching a diamond necklace. And if you think about it today, it's not a grey, cold, drizzly, rainy day. He's got such a beautiful day, sunny, and all his friends to see him off. So, goes to prove. Now, on my stag night in 1973, Tony and John Evans plunked me in the back of Tony's Mini and drove all over Auckland. But I certainly distinctly remember them driving round and around the car park of the Trident Tavern in Onehunga, which was a typical bikie hangout back then, real rough. They wound their windows down and yelled out, "Come out and fight, you expletive deleted bastards." You can imagine how I felt, sitting jammed in the back of the Mini with no back doors, with them going round and round and round hearing that. Yeah, I was less than thrilled. So after I got married, we went our separate ways for a while. And this is Tony and Di. I'll move on to them. Tony and met Di in Auckland in September 78. I won't say where and how, Di can tell you that story herself. Tony was living with Mum and Dad in Mount Roskill back then and was working for Mitchell Wetsuits at the time. They married in February 81 at St Matthew's in the city, which was the same church that Mum and Dad got married in back in 1942. I guess that was Tony wanting to honour his parents. They lived with Mum and Dad until a while after Dad died in 1980. Their first time together was at 21 Arches Road, Glenfield, just around the corner from where we spent our teenage years in Coronation Road. It was known among all as Di's Diner. Tony had a couple of jobs during this time, but his last job before leaving Auckland was very significant, as he was Air New Zealand's first courier driver, apart from the trucks. His beloved white Mitsubishi Sigma station wagon travelled over 1 million kilometres. That's saying something. They moved north to Kaio in September 87 to the house on the hill, and many here will remember the sign on the gate, "The Last Resort." He became foreman on a large kiwi fruit orchard in Kirikiri, and Kaio Hospital is where Jack was born in February 91. My children remember with fondness the times we journeyed to Kaio to stay at The Last Resort. We had great times together. He and Di were great hosts. Tony helped Robbie catch his first real fish off the Monganui Wharf. It was a whopper, John Dory. Whether you can remember that. James can recount the time we went to a party at a wool shed / shearing shed north of Kaio. James was 15 and there were lots of girls there. Bad Uncle Tony kept encouraging him to try his luck with one of them behind the shed. And daughter Sarah badly cut her leg helping friends' daughter over a fence. Tony and Di moved back to Auckland in early 93 to help me out at Nova Zone. And Audrey was born at North Shore Hospital in April 93. Now we come to Waikino. They moved to Waikino in February 99, buying the beautiful old property in Queen Street that became the family home and scene of many memorable events and parties. Tony worked in 3 jobs in the next few years: safe and sound security at the Waihi mine, resurface engineering, doing commercial flooring resurfacing, using some awful chemicals that wouldn't have helped us long. Planet Toys, I'll never forget him driving what he called Tony's toy truck between Waihi, Auckland, Whangarei, Napier, Rotorua and Hamilton. In June 2005, Tony and I bought the business of the Waikino Station Cafe, and in the years since have improved the services on offer and achieved excellent reviews and a loyal customer base. Now the children and I enjoyed our trips to Waikino or Mr. Suits and his curries. He used to make an old-fashioned Kiwi type of curry that, amongst other offerings, fed many. In May 2013, Tony had his first major hospitalisation since childhood. He nearly died and spent time in Waikino Hospital, but he was a tough old cookie and made it through in the end. Audrey and Brett, who had known each other since school days, I guess childhood school day sweethearts, became a couple. And Bryn, Tony's first grandson, was born in January 2018. Bryn and Audrey were married at Tony and Di's home in March 2020. And Tony got to walk his beautiful daughter down the aisle. His next grandson, Rain, was born in June 2021. With failing health, Tony had to give up working at the cafe about 3 or 4 years ago. So there was no more wearing the station master's cap at the station, sticking his head out the window, waving a cap, blowing the whistle, all aboard, all aboard. He still did his best to maintain the garden. And certainly the last time I saw him back in February, he was on the ride-on mower, mowing the grass outside the school next door. Tony was most above all a family man. And he was blessed with a wonderful wife and long marriage of 41 years. A magical figure these days. As well as fine examples of great upbringing for Jack and Audrey. I'm sure his son-in-law, Brett, who I know he loved and respected, will do likewise with grandchildren Bryn and Rain. He was intensely proud of what his family had achieved. Diane developing a successful business in the cafe. Jack and his mining expertise and responsibilities as a master blaster around New Zealand and Australia. Audrey in opening her own florist shop, Audrey and Flora, which is named after Tony's mother and the mother's twin sister, Flora. And Brett, twice captain of the Swamp Foxes, and in 2018, winner of the Meads Cup for Heartland Player of the Year. His family, first and foremost. Rugby. Now I'm sure he coached Brett, told him how to play. Not racing, but fishing. His beer and his funny smelling smokes, while he still could anyway. His dogs, and let's not forget Barty, the Manx cat, who thought she was a terrier dog, and Reggie, his ancient 14-year-old half-bald canary, who finally turned his toes up. The list of dogs is long, because he loved his dogs. Patch, when he lived with Mum and Dad. Doobie, then Minnie, were both boxers. And as we all know, boxers slower and fart a lot. So you've got to love them. Then there was Hurley, the English pointer boxer cross. Matty, the Hunterway Border Collie cross. And finally, Hoochie, the grand dog, originally Jack's dog. He loved his garden, which is such a beautiful place. He liked reading newspapers and books and watching Sky Channel, history and geography. Tiny was always assimilating things. He never stopped learning, was fascinated by facts. His music, I didn't make a note of it here, but yeah, while we were growing up, we had different tastes in music, but I came to like a lot of the music that he'd grown up with. And he certainly, it was playing a lot, most of the time at the house. Tony offered his opinion on a wide range of topics. It was pointless arguing with TD. Once he had formed his opinion, he wouldn't be budged. Remember the finger pointing and the glare? Christ, was that just with me? I doubt that it was. In his life, Tony suffered a lot of ill health and pain. I don't know that I could have handled it as well as he did. I have tremendous respect for the courage he has shown and what he has endured. He never complained to me. He'd make jokes about his doctors, nurses and medication. When things were bad, he just got to work and set to. And he concealed a lot of his health problems because he didn't want people to feel sorry for him. Though he was never physically big, in later years he grew increasingly frail. But as he said, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. I last saw Tony in late February and told him make sure to stick around for his 70th, which is only 3 weeks away. And then I'd come down and spend the day with him. It's not to be. I'll forever regret not visiting sooner. I know Sarah kept telling me to get my ass down and see him. The lesson here is never to put off until tomorrow what you should do today. The chance may not come again, and you're left with regrets. I'm so glad that at the very least he got to see his 2 grandsons born and to walk his daughter down the aisle. It's said that the measure of a person's life is not what they look like, what they own, where they live, but the size of the hole they left behind. Looking around here, it's obvious he's left a bloody great hole in a lot of people's lives. I've lost my only brother, and though we had our differences, I loved him very much. You've lost a mate, none have lost also, and died, Jack and Audrey, who have lost their husband and father. While we can give them all our support, life will not be the same for them without them. We can, though, all feel richly blessed by what he shared with us and what he was to us. One and only irrepressible and unforgettable TD. So let's all honour his life in our own way as we remember what we shared and say goodbye for the last time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for that. It was a great insight into Dad's life. It was beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here today. It means a lot to us, and it would mean a lot to Dad. Dad taught me a lot about life and what it means to be a genuine person. Dad loved to give advice to people and had a real knack for knowing what to say at the time you needed it most, even if you didn't realise it at the time. I remember getting a lot of lectures as a teenager. My mates were no exception, they copped it as well. I particularly remember one of my late friends, Peter, always talking with Dad whenever he came over. It could have been because he was polite, but I'm pretty sure it was because he loved talking just as much as Dad did. Dad's advice and guidance became ever so important to me when I took on a leadership role later in life shortly after my 25th birthday. I was a bit nervous and unsure about being a young leader, but he assured me and told me I was now a centurion and it was my time to become a leader. We constantly kept in touch when I was working abroad, and I always hung up the phone knowing what I had to do and how to get it done. Dad was someone you always walked away from feeling like you had learnt something or had something to think about. Whether it was from a seemingly endless lecture, more common when I was a teenager, or something that needed no words at all, like how humble he stayed with his own challenges in life. I would like to finish by sharing something I posted the day Dad passed away, for those of you that may not have the opportunity to read. Today I lost my guide, my advisor, my counsellor, and my mate. You fought so hard right to the end, Dad, and there will not be a day that goes by that I will not think of you and how you guided me through life to be the person I am today. It is your time to rest now, and I will forever and always miss you and love you. Thank you.
I'm going to read a couple of things. Mum's asked me to read something on behalf of her as well as I'd like to say something for myself. So Mum's got a poem. Live simply, love generously, care deeply, speak kindly. Remember, if a dog was a teacher, you would learn things like, when loved ones came home, always run to greet them. Allow the experience of fresh air and the wind in your face to be pure ecstasy. Take naps, stretch before rising, run, romp, and play daily. Thrive on the attention and let people touch you. Avoid biting when a simple growl will do. On warm days, stop to lie on your back in the grass. On hot days, drink lots of water and lie under a shady tree. When you're happy, dance and wag your entire body. Delight in the simple joy of a long walk. Be loyal. Never pretend to be something you're not. And if what you want lies buried, dig until you find it. When someone is having a bad day, be silent. Sit close by and nuzzle them gently. Enjoy every moment of every day. Dad loved post-it notes. They were everywhere. Mum would wake up in the morning and he would have written her a to-do list for the day and stuck it on her bag so she didn't not see it. I had the honour of finding Dad's last post-it note. On Friday we got home, walking around in circles, cleaning up when we didn't need to, and I found Dad's wallet. And I said, come on Mum, let's see how much cash Dad's packing. So we're rifling through it, naughty, and I found a note that Dad had written. So I'd like to share it all with you. It ain't dark yet, but it's getting there. So long, it's been good to know you. Ahead and beyond the event horizon, past supernova. Keep an eye out, I'll be there. So far, but true love so near.
It's actually very hard to stand now after those beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you. Thank you, Jack, Audrey. The poem is very special. The family have asked if there is anybody who would like to have just a few brief words.
Hi all. Yeah, as Jeff alluded to, I met TD at Greers Industries. I'd like to share a few stories, at least the stories I can tell in this room, because there's many stories I can't tell, but all I can say is a hell of a ride, TD. So now and again, TD and I would do a Saturday overtime. Don't listen to this, Jeff. Saturday overtime at Greers, and I happened to have the key. So TD and I shared cars because he was at Darlingham, Milford. It was either his Mini or my red dog river. And so we'd get there and we started work at 8:30, I'd knock. We'd go clock in, come back out, lock the door, go down to the Leopard Tavern, which was open, and get on the booze. And like clockwork, back at 12:30, clock out, lock the door, and go back to the tavern. Because the company paid. The other story I can tell, and Mick knows about this one, and we're in Mick's car, Tony, Mick and I, were on a camping trip to Tauranga Bay, and Chipper wasn't far behind his car. We're just about at Tauranga Bay, and I don't know who saw it, but there's a duck in the paddock. Okay, I'll go get it, that's dinner. So I started chasing after this duck in the paddock, and then suddenly Tony and Mick are throwing stones at me. And I'm going, what the hell? Faster, Bondi. One of our, and we had many, we went to so many different pubs as locals, depending on where we lived. To name a few, the Thunderbird, the Glenfield Tavern, the North Coast Tavern. But one I really, really loved, which was close to where Mick and Tony had their flat in Chipper, in Kiwi Road, was the Masonic. And if you all know the Masonic in Devonport, it's two-storey, right on the water. So one of the many occasions we were there, which was any day with wine, we're all sitting upstairs drinking away, and this freighter, not like the big container ships, this freighter came in and anchored right in the harbour opposite the Masonic. All good, all good. Captain Dawson, he was going to commandeer the boat. So they, not me. I don't know why I didn't go. But Dawson, Brian Thompson from Greers and a few others borrowed a dinghy. And out they went, and it was about 2 k's. They got about a k out and they started standing up. They all fell out. This dinghy, the tide was coming in, was heading towards the harbour bridge, and we're all going, oh please, do you all swim? But they all got back to shore. The rest of the stories I can't tell you. I'd like to close by just saying, Jeff alluded to the rock. We'll die you or Tony's rock as well. But now and again when we chatted, and we chatted quite often, he also called you a beacon. And the reason that was, Di, you lit up a room in every room you came in. Thank you.
First off, thanks Fondy and Jeff. You've cleared a few things up for me about Tony, a few little embellishments that he made along the years. I first met Tony 60 years ago. I came from Canada to New Zealand. The first day at school, the teacher dragged me up the front, telling all the kids who this new guy is. I'm wearing Levi jeans, Converse, Chuck's Taylor shoes, which weren't even in New Zealand in those days. In the front row, I couldn't take my eyes off him. There's this kid, which why he was in the front row became obvious a few days later. Here's this kid who looked like he'd cut his own hair, his busted nose, he's wearing a singlet, baggy shorts, and he's got no shoes on at all. Anyway, it turned out though that Tony was one of the most popular kids in school. And fortunate for me being this new kid, Tony took me under his wing. I haven't seen him much for the last probably 20 years, but in those 60 years, the first 40, the one thing that was obvious was that Tony had already lived 9 lives and was sort of borrowing a few along the way. But his embellishment things were when Jeff talked about him falling in the bathtub. Tony's version was he fell into the champagne pool in Rotorua and he was hauled out dead. Now, I've seen Tony naked a lot of times, in the right sense, but the scarring on his body was on his elbow, where Audrey grabbed him, and that was his story. You probably, those of you who know Tony's anatomy will probably remember those scars. The other thing was about that mini. Pondy will remember some times we had in that mini, like once going through the Fitzgerald Glade about 3 o'clock in the morning with a, if any of you know the Fitzgerald Glade, you know, it goes through the Rotorua, it's trees on both sides. There's a tanker and articulated truck in front of us. Tony pulls out the mini, there's Pondy, myself, and Tony obviously, and the dog. Yeah, the dog, that's right. Tony pulls out to overtake this thing. As we're looking out the side, where Tony's talking to us, headlights are coming the other way, and there's another tanker. Tony calmly pulls in between the trailer and the tanker, so we're tucked in the middle, and pulls back out again. We're actually, on that trip, we were actually going to find a burger bar that was open. We left a party in Devonport at about 1 o'clock in the morning. We didn't drive till we found a takeaway bar. We found one in Taupo in the end, that was about 7 o'clock. The story of the duck and pond was hilarious because our whole idea was we were going to get this duck and that was going to feed us, you know, the hunter-gatherer types. But another time we were on a trip up north and we were broke. We'd been drinking up there for days. We run out of money. We went into the Hikarangi pub and I was playing the piano, about 2 or 3 songs that I knew. The publicans started buying us beer. So Tony, the ever good salesman, was wandering around the crowd talking about this, that and the other because he'd seen this dead rabbit down on the side of the road. He talked to this group that would eat rabbit. So he said, would you like to buy one? So Tony scoots out the pub, jumps in my car, drives down the road, grabs a dead, rigged rabbit, brings it back, got us another 3 pints. So he was the entrepreneur at all times. He was a man. I hear Tony a few IOUs. But I've got a lot of stories I can say about Tony. Most of them I would tell you, but I can't remember most of them because I'm a little bit hazy. I've woken up in so many places with that guy not knowing where I was, like under a kitchen table once at a party that we'd been to the night before in Ponsonby. Tony's snoring away beside me. I woke up and looking up at the bottom of a Formica table thinking, where the hell? And it wasn't until people started setting the table out for breakfast that he woke up, because I didn't know who they were. But Di probably does remember this. Well, maybe you don't actually. I can't remember when we told you. Probably picked it up anyway. I was Tony and Di's best man, and on their wedding day, Tony had ideas, you know, brilliant ideas. And 99.9% of the time, all of us would go along with them. At the end afterwards, 99.9% of the time, we wish we hadn't. But on his wedding day, he had this idea that we were going to do this sort of nostalgic, Tony the single bloke, walk him up Queen Street, all dressed up in our gear for the wedding. And we're going to have a bit of a pub crawl. And we'd stop at all these pubs, we used to drink a whiskey. Stop at the pub, have a whiskey, stop at the other. We'd been about 6 or 7 by the time we got to the Queen's Head Tavern, which was a watering hole for all of us. Now that was a great plan. One whiskey spaced out by walking, exercise, walk it off, get to the next one. We get to the Queen's Head Tavern, and of course, everybody in the pub knows Tony. So we have one, and someone else shouts, there's another one, and another one, and another one. And I don't know if you're the topography of Auckland, but where St Andrews is, it's up here, and Queen Street's down here. So Tony and I, by now, I'm not kidding, must have had close to 20 shots of whiskey. We stagger out, well, we didn't stagger out, went until the wind hit us when we got to Queen Street, and we were swaying. Oh God, we got to go up that hill. So people must have wondered, the bride of the day, there's the 2 of us leaning on each other, arm in arm, and saying, hey, you guys are all, nah, that phase. And after the wedding process went through, and then we got off to the racecourse, Tony's going, oh God, how are you feeling? So I'm pretty good, yeah, great. He says, so am I. I think, yeah, we'll have a little bit of a break, eh? So everything was right, yeah, I said, fine. Well, then this guy wheels out champagne. That was pretty much it till about 6 in the morning, I think. But anyway, that's the sort of guy Tony was. If there was a minute to be lived in life, he lived it. And over the years, when Jack and Audrey came along, and his little running around the place, there was this thing that Tony always loved with his family. And a credit to Audrey Senior and Jeff Senior to create what they did out of that boy. But I'm just looking at his coffin there. Tony, can you hear me, buddy? Because do you remember the old dining room table we used to have where you sat at one end? We had this huge dining room table in a flat. And Tony would sit way down one end, sort of like that thing Putin's got at the moment. So Tony would be down one end, I'd be down the other. We'd be eating our boil in the bag dinners. with a half-gallon jar of beer, just about every night. The only other thing, that Minnie, come back to the Minnie story, and the Masonic story. We lived just off of Calliope Road. If you know how to get to Devonport, you come down, you turn left to go down to Masonic, or you turn right to Kiwi Road where we lived. So we're in the Minnie, we came along, we're talking and arguing about, you know, the old finger pointing they used to do, arguing about where we were going to go. Were we going to go home and have dinner first and go to the pub, or were we going to go to the pub? But we'd been at the Thunderbird for about 4 hours before this. So we're in the Minnie and we're driving around that Y section in the Minnie, circling around like this, laughing like hell. No, let's go to the pub, no, let's go home. Go to the pub, go home, go home. Next minute, on the corner over here, a red and blue light. So the cop just pulls up to the corner and Tony stops in the middle of the section, you know, not even trying to make it obvious that he hadn't had a few. And the cop says, "What the hell are you doing?" And Tony says, "We're arguing about where we're going to go home, we're going to go to the pub." And he says, "I suggest you choose home." And he goes, "Listen, buddy."
I think when you listen to stories and you just hear the love that is shared, that is the true picture of the man that Tony was. And we've been provided with an amazing portrait. So I'm now going to ask you to take a few moments to quietly reflect on your own memories of Tony and how he touched all of your lives. And the music and the photos have been specially chosen by the family. those stories, those photos. Each one tells a different story and just reiterates everything that we've heard today. So Diane, Audrey, Jack, and all your extended family, as you grieve the loss of your treasured husband, dad, Gar, brother, and uncle, please feel the arms of everybody here and those that are surrounding you from now on, giving you ongoing love and support. Tony's strength, bravery, loyalty, sense of humour, and love for you all will continue to be an enduring influence after you leave here and resume your daily life without his physical presence around you. As we celebrate his life today and say our earthly farewells, take joy in the fact that Tony has been, still is, and will always be a part of your lives. Remember him when Led Zeppelin comes on. Remember him when you try and replicate his soup. Remember him when you're tidying the garden. Remember him when you raise a glass and think that it's always half full. Never think that it's half empty. But mostly, remember him with love, as he would want you to. As we come to the end of the service, I'd like to share with you this poem. It's called Frost, by New Zealand poet Cilla McQueen. Time comes when my compass trembles to your true absence, and I must turn to you in the third person. Whispering to the kowhai tree, the patient construction of spiders. To the frost, here's history. Gone from this round world, he is starlight. So now, in the clear understanding of absence and also of starlight, we come to the part of our service. Tony, for the person you have been to us all and the place you hold in our lives, we thank you. Go with our blessings and with our love. With great reverence, we give Tony's body to be cremated and return his body to nature from whence it came. We send his spirit onwards to soar beyond our horizons, and with tenderness we accept into our lives Tony's memories. Tony, go now to a place of tranquility. Rest in contentment in the warm glow of your family's love. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, memories to memories, love to love. We reverently commit your body to cremation. Take only love on your journey. We will watch you in the stars above. Go well and know that you were loved so much on this earth and will always be missed. And yes, Tony, we'll look for you in the stars and see you on the other side. Let us go with courage, let us go with grace.